Okay, so we've talked about extremism, positive and negative extremism, and how to keep yourself safe. We've also looked at fake news, and again how to spot the signs of it. And we've also then gone on to look at emotions, positive and negative. And then we've also looked at relationships. So we looked last time round at, what makes a relationship healthy, unhealthy, and then perhaps even harmful and abusive. And we've talked about, things again like radicalisation. We've talked about grooming, both, kind of on the ground in a very real world sense, but also online, right? So we've covered all that. And now we're going to go on and talk about conflict. Because even in the most healthy of relationships, you're always going to come across conflict, aren't you, of one kind or another. So I just want you to start by watching this short video. So what I'd like you to do now in your pairs is to think about what sorts of types of conflict there are. So just think about what sort of situations could possibly arise, okay? And you can use as a starter, examples of the conflict you saw in that video clip. Okay, so who could give me an example of a type of conflict?
When something bad's happened, you don't really want to talk about it. But then, somebody asks you, how's it been? You might tell them, I don't want to tell you, but then they might just keep asking you what's happened, and there will cause a massive argument.
Yeah, definitely.
And two people have a disagreement, which turns into an argument, which turns into conflict, because it's like almost conflicting choices, or they're disagreeing with each other, so it's like almost the opposite thing that they want to do.
Yeah. So almost like an escalation, isn't it? An escalation of, starting with a simple disagreement, but it actually then getting worse and turning into full-on conflict, yeah.
When you have two feelings and they might clash with each other, like in the video, when the emotion anger wanted to do something, then fear was against it. Yeah,
absolutely. So even within yourself, even with regards to one particular situation, you can have quite conflicting emotions about it, can't you? Okay, so if we look at this, we can see some other examples, can't we? We've talked about conflict when it's just about yourself, but remember, it's not just about us, is it? Because we don't exist in isolation, do we? We've all got a family, we've got some family, we've all got groups of friends. We all belong to Cardiff West Community High School. We all live in Cardiff, which is part of Wales, which is part of the world. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not just conflict for ourselves at a very small scale, we've got to think about it bigger than that. So looking to the screen, can anybody recognise either any body or any examples of conflict that they can see?
Obviously there's Donald Trump by there, and then I think the bottom right one is about racial conflict.
And what about the bottom left? Anyone know who that is? Hayden?
Is that Greta Thunberg?
It is, yeah. So what will she be doing there?
She's telling them to stop climate change so they could have a better education.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and what else have we got on there? What's the one at the top in the middle? What's that signifying?
I guess a tank, because it's almost signifying war.
Absolutely right.
Which is
so
two people's conflicting interests.
Sort of tied up in conflict with each other, isn't it? The top right, that's just two people doing what? What do they look like they're doing?
Arguing.
Yeah, having an argument. What about a definition? If you had to explain to somebody exactly what conflict was, how would you define it?
It's like opposing decisions almost, because someone believes the opposite of what someone else believes in, or that almost example of opposites. Because if something is the opposite of something, it then automatically conflicts with it.
Yeah, so that's automatically going to create tension. So wherever somebody has a belief, a view, an opinion, yeah,
Yeah.
then that's always open, isn't it, for conflict, potentially.
It doesn't have to be just opinions as well. Like they said, it can be feelings, it can be... it's just mainly whatever is opposite of something else.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do, you've all got paper and pens on your desk. If you can just do a quick mind map of the different types of conflict that you think exist. Okay, how are we doing? We all got some examples in your mind maps?
In an argument, feelings mixing, because you want to feel sad, then you're disgust, but then you're also angry, so there's a lot of feelings mixing together and clashing. And that could turn into an even bigger argument because they're all like combined in together.
Absolutely. So there's a lot going on, isn't there? They're quite intense, quite a lot of emotions flying around. Jazz?
I said with like riots and people trying to avoid conflict, because with riots is people standing up for something that they perhaps don't believe in, while someone else does. So there's like people are conflicting with almost choices that they're making.
Absolutely. Hey, Hayden, over to you.
There might be like a little politician conflict, like people might think, oh, like Donald Trump's good, but some people might be like, nah, Joe Biden's better.
Some things are quite divisive, aren't they? That if one group of people believes one thing, then by virtue of that, there's going to be lots of other people that are holding opposing views, and things like politics, religion. Can anyone think of any other examples where you tend to get tensions and conflicts starting?
Homosexuality.
Yeah, absolutely. So things like any, gay or trans rights, anything like that. Yeah, definitely. Abby?
People who are racist. And
Yeah.
when I think it was in London, I'm not sure, but when they were all, I can't remember what it's called now. There's a group of people and they're trying to protest, protest against racism, because it's actually not right.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's like all the Black Lives Matter, isn't it? All those protests that have been happening recently. And, and not just London, yes, London, but, Bristol as well. And
I know there's a lot in London, because I went to London and then I seen it all happening.
yeah. So you've seen the short film and it's shown us, it's demonstrated a few of the kinds of communication. So can anybody name me a type of communication and give me a definition for it? Hayden.
Aggressive.
Okay, and what does that look like? How would you describe that reaction?
Like to being aggressive to someone like you, like saying rude stuff, like they get you to do something that's pretty easy, but then you know what, but then you get mad, say, no, I'm not doing this. How about you go do it yourself? It's
okay.
Rude.
So it's rude.
Thank you.
It's selfish. It's angry.
I was going to say about assertive, which is being able to stand up for yourself, but doing it politely and being assertive.
Yeah, so doing it politely and respectfully,
Yeah.
isn't it? Is that you're thinking about how it's going to be received and how the other person is feeling as well.
Passive is like where you kind of let people, you do whatever they tell you, because it's not that like you don't want to stand up for yourself. You feel bad saying like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. Okay.
They're being sarcastic
Yeah.
and like saying, well, oh yeah, that'll be really good, as if like it won't be very good.
Yeah.
And almost like talking behind their back about how, say, maybe, oh, they think they're so good or something.
Yeah.
They'd do something when we were playing the game and I'd be like, oh yeah, nice one, that really will, or something like that.
Yes.
And they'd be like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the type of
Yeah.
passive
So in your
aggressive.
example, that's
Yeah.
almost like, I suppose, banter, and that's just
Yeah.
friends, and you understand in that group of friends. But if it wasn't in that situation, then absolutely that's how it would be construed, wouldn't it, if you were on the receiving end of that. So you've all got the worksheet now, and I just want to read you the scenario that I want you to think about. The teacher of your favourite subject tells you that you have to drop down a set as your grades are slipping. And then there's 4 statements, numbered 1 to 4, underneath. And beside each statement, I'd like you just to write down what style of communication you think that that's an example of. There's no way that this is happening. I'm going to tell Mrs. Jones exactly what I think of her. She cannot make this decision.
No.
Jazz, what style's that?
I said aggressive because he's not saying it behind her back, and
Yeah.
and he's saying it like he's gonna tell her what he thinks of her, which is quite aggressive.
Okay, so the second one is, oh, this is so awful. I knew I didn't do well in the last test. It doesn't matter. I'm better at maths anyway. Logan.
Passive.
And why do you think that?
It's like you're being like, I don't know how to say it, but you're being like, you're not arguing about it.
Yeah.
You're just like taking it in.
Just sort of accepting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like accepting defeat or something.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. So the next one. Oh no, this can't be happening. I need to tell Mrs. Jones how important this subject is to me and ask her for help so that I can stay in the set. Hayden.
It's assertive.
It's kind of asking for what you want, isn't it? In a
Yeah.
very sort of clear and respectful way, which is what that sounds like. There was nothing aggressive there, was there? Okay, fantastic. And the last one then, statement 4. I can't believe this. I'm going to skip class now, and there's no way I'm going to speak to Mrs. Jones again. She knows I'm going through stuff at home. Abby, what's that an example of?
Aggressive. Because he's going to be like, because he don't have the teacher he wants, he's going to start like mitching, and then he's just going to get lower and lower, so he's being like aggressive.
Aggressive is part of the answer, but it's, can you remember what that 4th style?
Partially aggressive.
Passive aggressive, yeah, which is partially aggressive, yeah, you're right. Is that what you were going to say, Jazz? Yeah, great stuff. Okay, so what I want you to do now, you've got these sentence starters, and think into that same situation that you're in. I want you to pick one of those and role play so that one of you is Mrs. Jones, the teacher, and one of you is the student, okay? So just have a practice of the conversations and how you might handle it. And I want to know when we feed back, it's going to be also kind of, how it feels, responding in a certain way.
You have to drop down a
Okay,
set
you can
because your
pick different
grades are
ones. You don't
slipping.
have to have like one of you being the
Oi.
teacher and one of you being the student.
Will you drop me down a sec? You can't do this, mate, because I really, really like this class.
Maybe we can have a talk at break time and I could help you out.
You're not even listening to me. I need more help. But you never listen to me or help me in class.
Your grades are dropping. I've asked for help yet, but you haven't been helping me, so my grades are going to drop. You have to speak to the person who's in control of all the maths. And who is that? Mr. John.
Can you please listen to me? I did it wrong. Oh, well, fine. You'll be the student, obviously. No. Okay. I am listening to you, but you just didn't do well.
You are not listening to me.
I am. So what do you want me to do about it?
I deserve to stay in this set.
Why am I being moved down the set?
You got 29% on the test.
I got 100%. See, I got 100%.
No, out of 100%.
Oh. Well, I'm pretty sure I revised. Doesn't that give me like a special ability to automatically do the test properly?
Now you listen to me. Let me stay in this set, or I'll come to your house and I'll come to your house and I'll make your dogs bark at you every night while you're to sleep.
Okay, thank you. Well, there was lots of noise, so that's a good thing. Hopefully you all had lots of goes with the role play and seeing how it felt to either be the teacher or the pupil and what kind of communication style seemed to work well. Okay, Raj, can I ask you to choose one of your scenarios, one of your role plays, and can you just do that and share it with the class?
I'm sorry, but you have to drop down a set because your grades aren't showing enough.
But I'm feeling confident about this. I was getting good grades at first, but then I just stopped revising.
Why? If you really want help to stay in this set, you have to revise, you have to do your homework on time, and maybe I guess I could help you at break time to revise, because if you don't, you'll be out of this set. I'm sorry.
At break time? All the times, break time.
I'm sorry, but if you really want to stay in this set, you kept saying that it was your favourite subject. This is what you have to do to stay in the top set.
But I'd like to know how I've dropped down. Why, if I stopped revising, why has there been so many supplies in this class?
Well, the supplies aren't nothing to do with me. Unfortunately, I've been called to do other jobs. I'm also the support leader, and I have to help with other people sometimes. And I'm sorry, but if you look at your grade, you have a D+. So I can't keep you in unless you get at least above a C.
Above a C? Oh, God, well, if I want to stay in this set, then I will have to revise.
All right, thank you, guys. Let's give them a clap. Okay, thank you for volunteering to do that. So, not you guys, because obviously you know, but can somebody else tell me what sort of style of communication that certainly the teacher was trying to adopt there? Yes, Casey.
It went from like friendly to more like hurtful.
Can you remember from the 4 communication styles that we talked about?
I went from more like assertive to passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's right. So when you were getting kind of what you wanted, you started off being really sure, didn't you, of what you wanted to say. You were framing it in a nice and positive way, a helpful way, a respectful way. But then once you started getting the kind of back chat and the cheekiness, that made you change your communication style, didn't it? Yeah. Great stuff. It's generally really, really good to be assertive. So if you look at what's up on the screen now, this is some of the clues, some of the things that you can do yourself to help you be assertive. So it's about speaking calmly and firmly, okay? It's about only using the word you once. Because I don't know about you, but what happens if If somebody keeps saying, you did this, you did that, you said this, you said that, Jazz, how would that make you feel?
It seems more like almost aggressive, like you did this wrong, you need to do better, like that.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's like blame, isn't it? It's somehow like somebody's telling you that it's all your fault. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but, you know, in relationships, often, you know, it's never one person, is it, that's to blame. It's usually a combination of factors and a combination of events that are happening. Abby?
When they normally blame you, they normally got to think I'm going at home and they don't want to say it, so they just say, like, kind of take it out in, like, at you or, like, bullying someone else because stuff's not going right at home and they can't, like, share their feelings at home. So they try sharing them at school, but they share them in the wrong way.
That's right, absolutely. So being assertive would be really helpful, wouldn't it, in that situation? Because you could say to somebody, I know it's not, you know, something along the lines of, I know it's not your problem and it's not your fault, but I just want you to be aware that, and so I am feeling this. Yeah, and then that way you're kind of asking people to bear with you a bit, aren't you? Which is asking them to be kind and help you. Yeah, and that's actually something that I think strong people do. That's a really brave thing to do.
But they just probably, the stuff at home's probably not going their way.
Yeah.
They're not sure how to come out because they've never been in this situation before.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
If you speak to a teacher or something, they can help you, so then you know for next time.
Brilliant. Absolutely right. Yeah, and it's about that not being afraid to speak up for yourself. As long as you don't do it in a confrontational way where it feels to the other person that you're blaming them or you're attacking them. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So it's expressing your opinion, your feelings and your rights. You know, because we've got rights, haven't we? Clearly and calmly. So it could be something like, I don't know, when you raise your voice at me, I feel scared, or, you know, I don't like it, it makes me feel uneasy or unsafe. You know, that would be an assertive way to say to somebody, please stop, you know, can you not do that because it makes me feel this way. So you're owning your own feelings, you're not blaming them for the way that you're feeling, you're just explaining the link to them between their words and actions and your thoughts and feelings. Yes, Abby?
Or another one could be, when you blame me for everything, I feel like I'm not good enough.
Absolutely. Great example. Yeah, well done, lovely. Yeah, it's owning how you feel without putting the responsibility 100% on somebody else. Great. Okay. So are we all agreed, out of those 4 communication styles, before I move on, that being assertive is the most constructive, sort of positive way to be?
Yeah.
Good. Brilliant. So here are just some examples of, you know, what assertive language might look and sound like. So could you please listen to me? Not, I need you to listen to me, you know, in a really angry way, but just ask calmly, you know, can you please listen to me? What do you think about this? So asking their opinion. I'm feeling, you know, maybe anxious about this. So could you explain it to me again, as an example? I know some of you have said already in one of the other sessions around, you know, perhaps the timing not being good. Perhaps it's a parent and they're really busy doing something, particularly at the moment. Perhaps they've been working at home as well when you've been off at home. So it could be, you know, when can we talk about this? So kind of, I understand now isn't a convenient time for you. When would be a good time? I'd like to do that now. I'm listening to you, so please could you listen to me? That's actually a really powerful thing to say. You know, I'm showing you the respect of listening to you and what you've got to say. I am valuing your thoughts and feelings. Could you please afford me the same respect? Okay, and I hear what you're saying and I understand how you feel. That's probably one of the most powerful statements you can ever make to somebody. So try and remember some of these because they might be really useful in diffusing conflict. Something else you can use is an acronym called SALT. The first thing is the S, which is to stay calm. So can you remember any techniques that we've talked about together about how you could help yourself to stay calm? Yes, Abby?
Do your breathing.
Yes, brilliant. Yeah, breathing always helps kind of just calm things down, get you back in your body.
Just take a minute to think about what you can hear around you and focus on it. And like Abby said, breathing.
Yeah, brilliant. So just remember those strategies that we've got to stay calm. And then the second one, the A, and this is really important to being assertive, is asking for what it is that you need. Because do you know what? We're not mind readers. However empathic we are, however much we try and understand where other people are coming from, and it's just that asking, there's real power in calmly, politely, respectfully asking for what we need. Okay, so the L, listen well, and this is key, and I always have to remind myself because I get so excited, I'm naughty for doing this, don't interrupt. Because how do you feel if you're talking to somebody and you're really in the middle of it and you're calm but you know exactly what you want to say and then somebody interrupts you?
Annoyed, frustrated, but at the same time, sometimes, from what happened to me, is if you listen well and you're waiting for the opportunity to speak, and then they don't give it to you, you're just waiting and waiting, and then either you don't get to say it or you have to interrupt.
I think if you have given it a reasonable time and it is at the end of like one thing, then that's something else, isn't it? And again, it's how you do it, perhaps. If you start just shouting over them, that's not going to go well, is it? Whereas if you go, oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying, I understand how you feel, could I just say? So it's the how, isn't it?
Well, it's like sometimes if you like kind of shut down their conversation.
Yeah. Well, that just feels rude, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And ignorant, and it just makes you feel bad about yourself. So if you've got to this point, well, either if you've heard what each other have got to say and you've been respectful, you've listened well, you're probably going to have a resolution, aren't you? In which case, there's no more conflict. You know, happy days, we can move on. If not, then you can negotiate, can't you? Because at least you've got to the point of you know what the key factors are. You know what's bothering one person and you know what the other person's viewpoint is. Do you see what I mean? So you've got the things that you need to be able to start a negotiation then. Okay, yes, Jazz?
With a negotiation, because you know what each other wants and stuff, you can resolve a compromise.
Fantastic. Really important word there, compromise. Yeah. So we've looked at lots of different sorts of relationships, haven't we? And obviously conflict can arise in any of those. But I think it's also important that you understand that this is what happens on a larger scale, on a macro level. So sort of governments, you know, religious leaders, people with different views. I mean, an example recently is the anti-vaxxers, you know, on COVID versus the people who think we should all be vaccinated. So it's just think of it on a larger scale, but then all the strategies still apply. We just need our leaders to have those qualities to kind of keep us all safer, would be better. Okay, so you know how this works. So if you just pick a row and follow it through. Logan, do you want to just tell us what you filled in for your plenary activity?
I've done give 3 examples of conflict in the world today.
And what did you put?
War, climate and vegetarians.
Okay, yeah.
And for thinking back to lesson 1, what style of communication do you think negative extremists would use to resolve conflict?
Yeah.
I wrote, I think aggressive, because they would try and prove a point.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't just be like passive, neither passive aggressive. They would try and like raise a point.
Yeah.
And for give an example of a certain language, use of language, I wrote, I'm failing. I must tell them like how much it means to me, like how much I want to stay in this like given thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's great. Okay, Hayden.
I went diagonal.
Brilliant, lovely.
I did the top left one first. What do we understand by the word conflict? I said conflict is something to do with arguments that is a problem around the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thinking back to lesson 1, what style of communication do you think positive extremists would use to resolve conflict?
Yeah.
I think they might be a bit passive and give an example of an assertive use of language.
Yeah.
Like, I'm feeling confident about this, like, please just let me stay.
Yes, so you're thinking back to the teacher and pupil exercise we did earlier in that instance. Yeah, absolutely. So it's stating what you want in a calm and a measured way. Jazz?
I did the top row.
Yeah.
I said a conflict starts with people disagreeing, which turns into an argument, which ends up in conflict.
Yeah.
And then for number 2, I said that I would try and resolve conflict by seeing what they both want and trying to compromise with them both.
Yeah.
And for the last one, they said that Greta Thunberg could be described as an extremist. What kind of extremist do you think she is? And most people would say that, or probably a lot of people would say that Greta Thunberg is a positive extremist because she's trying to like save the world and help the environment. But she is a positive extremist. But in Germany, back then, Hitler, in Germany's eyes, were probably a positive extremist because he was trying to help the country by, I guess in their eyes, growing land, getting more land, and getting more money for Germany.
So I think that's a really, really important distinction, which highlights, really, really well the problems with extremism of any kind. So if we go back to the Greta Thunberg example, I guess, the only way that she would then perhaps become, a negative extremist would be if she was inciting people to do things that were either, illegal, harmful to others, and all those kind of things. That then becomes a danger, doesn't it?
Or if she went to certain lengths to get climate change done.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the how, and it's the fact that the ends don't always justify the means. Yeah, definitely. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much for doing that. So, we've talked about what can happen when conflict gets out of hand, haven't we? And, the German, the Hitler example you gave there is a really good example, isn't it, of where it really sort of, takes hold, it takes life, there's no compromise, there's no getting around a table and giving ground and listening. It just becomes about, we're on a mission, and you know what? Doesn't matter about anything else, we are just going to do what we believe to be right. So that's a really useful example there. So I just want to get a flavour. So hands up who feels they've now got a better understanding of what conflict is and why it happens. Okay, so that's good. Hands up who's got a better understanding of different communication styles. Okay, brilliant. So that's all of you, that's wonderful. And I suppose perhaps most importantly of all, hands up who feels they're now better equipped to be able to deal with any conflict they might encounter. Brilliant. Well, that's the most important one for me, so that's really heartening to see. Fab. Okay, thank you.